welcome to BS of the Week, episode 41. I am Patrick Driggett, coach of the Berlin Fire, and I am joined by my good friend.
Hi there, I'm Kevin Lucy from the Glasgow Rushmores. Nice to have you all watching.
Yeah, it's an exciting time of the year, right? So we're here. It's the playoffs. Wildcard games were just played. And speaking of those, Kev, why don't you lead us off and tell us about the LFC results from the wildcard round?
Okie doke. Well, the first game was the Rhinos against the Weasels. And this was really a repeat of week 5 game where the Rhinos won 24-14. But they won 24-14 on their own patch. This game was to be played at the Weasels Arena. And so would that in fact make any difference? Well, let's have a look. But before we go into that, of all the playoff teams in both the LFC and the PFC, I don't know if you know this, but the Weasels actually have the lowest points for record going into it. And just to make it even more interesting, the Rhinos have the lowest points against in their against column. And we also got the third best defense playing the fifth best defense. So these teams, we wouldn't really be expecting a sort of major offensive slug. We're expecting it to be a defensive game. So we really shouldn't have been just surprised when that's exactly what we got. In fact, in the whole game between the two teams, they only got 21 first downs, which is pretty low, as it were. So the game started, end of the first quarter, true to form, two defensive teams slug it all out, and it's 0-0 at the end of the first quarter. What then happens is there's a touchdown each, followed by a field goal, and in the second quarter, which gave Richards Rhinos a 10-7 halftime lead. Okay. In the third quarter, we had another exchange of field goals, making the score 13-10. Before the Weasels then got the third and the final touchdown of the game to make it 17-13 to the Weasels. Two more field goals secured the win, and Ben, in his first season, ran out a 23-13 winner. Not sure I agree with the MVP of the game. I thought it really should have gone to running back Gunn, who rushed for a very creditable 270 yards. And I'm afraid 270 yards in a playoff game is pretty good. Congratulations goes to Ben, who now goes on the road to face the Statesman in the divisional playoffs. But good performance from the Rhinos, ends a good season. But I think Ben just edged it on that one there with a nice victory. Okay, so then we come to a second game.
1 second, Kev. Your camera keeps shifting. You've bumped it twice. There we go. Yeah, we want to see that beautiful face.
I was trying to come off camera.
Yeah, I get a lot of weird texts that are like, more Kev. I want close-ups. That's what I.
Yeah, well, you must worry about the text that you get, mate. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay, you fire against the Sharks. You'll be happy about this one, sir.
Yeah, I've heard about this one.
Yeah. Okay, so whilst the Rhinos and the Weasels game had only 21 total first downs, this game was slightly different in as much as it managed to have 41 first downs between them. And altogether, you and Ben put on 72 points. So totally different game. It was interesting to look at the comments section in the preview, because in the comments, the main talking points in this one really were about Ben's, the amount of workload, if you like, that Ben's 8-year-old quarterback Stark had over his 1-year-old quarterback Fulford. And this one, I have to say, I found a bit strange as well, because so far this season, Stark has thrown for only a total of 118 yards, with a completion percentage of 40% only. Whereas Fulford the up-and-coming youngster, has thrown for 1,808 yards. So you've got 118 yards against 1,808. And a 51% completion rate. So you must sort of wonder, why was Stark in the lineup at all? Why didn't he just go for Fulford? Now, personally, though, having said all that, I'm not sure it actually made any difference. Certainly didn't help the situation, but I'm not sure whether that was the match-winning, match-losing decision that there was there. I don't think it was as relevant as people are sort of saying. So let's have a look at the game itself. The Sharks fly right out the blocks. You must have been changing your trousers at this stage, because
I'm so used to going down early in the first quarter that it's
yeah, but
yeah,
to go
certainly
straight
I
down
was sweating.
14-0.
Yeah.
14-0, first two possessions, and you're still going, whoops, what happened here? Mm-hmm. They went through a lead through a 47-yard run from their famous player Rampant, and then a 1-yard grind across in the red zone to get their second touchdown. The Fire, however, did come back with a touchdown, followed by another Sharks touchdown to reply. And again, it was that guy, Rampant, who then made the score 21-7. Then Patrick's Fire closed the gap, 21-14, still interested. Then it became 27-14, followed by 27-21. Now, at this stage, we're all asking ourselves, where the hell are the defenses in these two teams? Because every time one team got a drive on, they got a touchdown. So the defenses weren't exactly playing their part here. And we're not even at half-time at this stage. Then a field goal, which ended the half with a 30-21 Sharks lead. And basically, the fans then had a breather. They could see what the heck was going on. Now, the interesting thing here is we're lucky enough to go behind the scenes. We went into the Fire's dressing room, and straight away, the team split into the offensive coaches, got hold of the offense, and the defensive coach got hold of the defense. And by God, the air was blue, to say the least. They were asking, what the heck is going on here? They demanded to know what they were going to do about it. And we have to say the effectiveness of their halftime, shall we say, motivational talk was seen straight away in the second half, because the Sharks had the ball first, they had the first drive, and the Fire defense actually managed to stop them. Not only that, but then the Fire went down the field and responded with a field goal. Okay, so they're narrowing the points. Sharks' next drive is also stopped by the Fire's defense, and the Fire then get a touchdown. So now all of a sudden we're at 31-30 with the Fire in front. Okay, next drive, the Sharks can only manage a field goal, but it puts them 33-31 in front. We've got 8 minutes still to play, so it's all still to play for. And then, Berlin Fire get a touchdown. Okay, then with a bit of a ballsy decision, they then decide to go for a 2-point conversion and get it. So now we have a situation where we're at 39-33. On the Sharks' next drive, again, another ballsy decision. They go for 4th and 5. And they also get that to keep the drive alive. Now, at this stage, it's starting to get a bit nerve-wracking. And they get the first down on their own 32. And we've still got 2 minutes to go. So that's plenty of time. But the Fire defense steps up to the mark and they stop the Sharks. And with 1 minute 40 left, the offense has the sense to keep the flaming ball away from the opposition, and they managed to actually squeeze out the game 39-33. So despite running back Rampant's, what was it? 310 yards. He still ends up on the losing side, poor so-and-so. So Patrick, I know you've said all year round that you've got too many injuries and you're not going to make it further on and all the rest of it. Well, congratulations, mate, because you are now in the divisional playoffs.
Yeah, thanks.
Well done, mate.
Yeah, I think I'm probably as surprised as anybody else that I'm there. But
Yeah,
I think people think maybe I'm playing a game like I'm joking, but I
that's because you
I
did.
yeah, I mean I really do feel like it, but I had a really good talk with Todd Hastings, and I think one thing I like to do is I game plan hours. Every game and sometimes it bites me in the butt. and
Yeah.
but I do heavily try to figure out what I can do to put myself in the best position to win. And this time it paid off, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Well, certainly
So
well done.
yeah,
You should,
thank you. It was fun.
you should be
What's
very
funny
pleased.
about there was one punt the whole game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what it was just like unbelievable. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. No, thank
So,
you
did
for
anything exciting happen in the PFC?
Oh yeah, a couple things. So we had first we had the Maroons at the Rapiers. Like most of the games in the wild card weekend, really all of the games, this one didn't disappoint for its entertainment value. It was a good one. The Maroons came out with the first challenge to the Rapiers playoff hopes, scoring in the 8th minute, off the back of a 39-yard long pass to wide receiver Severn. Phil's Rapiers, though, were spurred into action off of this and responded with several huge gains on quick passes to wide receiver Beatty. I think it's Betty or Beatty. I'm not sure how to say his name. And that set them up for a tie. However, an inspired Maroons team who had come out the blocks hot, they blocked that extra point, and so they kept their lead 7-6. So exiting the first quarter, Scott Kramer's visiting Maroons led 7-6, and they signaled that we, the fans, would be in for quite a treat. So defenses kind of ruled the beginning of the second quarter. And finally, in the 25th minute, Lincoln gained the lead off of a dominating pass sequence to go up 13-7. And on the very next series, the Maroons drove down the field. And with the game clock kind of waning into halftime, they kicked a field goal as time expired to keep it within 3 points. And they headed into the locker room to rest and strategize. In the third quarter, we saw several back and forth possessions until running back Galloway fumbled, much to the Rapiers sidelines horror, and the Maroons quickly struck back with a 50-yard field goal, and they tied the game 13-13. The shock must have inspired some sort of creative problem solving, however, on Lincoln's side as they returned the ball 69 yards on the kickoff. And after a short drive that started on their opponent's own 25-yard line, they punched the ball in, and running back Galloway got his revenge and put the Rapiers up 2013. And so no one would talk about that fumble again. So with their backs against the wall, though, the Maroons took possession early in the third and assembled a great drive. But it stalled on the Rapiers' 36-yard line, and they took the 3 points to keep it close, bringing the score to 16-20. Lincoln, led by Pogue, then started another pass-heavy drive, but unfortunately an ill-timed play-action pass that was read by Lucas Silva and picked off as the pass was headed towards wide receiver McNamee, who is, by the way, a Fire alum that I traded to Phil, I think last season. The Maroons looked to score quickly, but the best they could muster was another field goal that put the game within 1 point, 19-20. Both defenses knew they had to, make something happen. And even after another heartbreaking interception by Kiteman of the Rapiers just couldn't believe it when the counterpunch ended up being a fumble by wide receiver McNamee again, who seemed a bit cursed this game. Unfortunately, though, the Maroons hit a brick wall. The Rapiers kind of just consolidated and said, no, you're not moving. And at 58 minutes, the Rapiers took possession and closed out the game with a 37-yard field goal at expiration to lead the game 37 37. I don't even know what I was saying. 23-19 at the whistle, and the Rapiers move on to the division game. Honestly, the game could have gone either way, and you have to imagine that if the Maroons could have kept even one of their field goal drives going and scored with a touchdown, we'd be looking at an upset right now. So this is a very close game. Scott Kramer earned his spot in the tournament and gave us an incredible game. And I'm sure Phil had to be sweating on the play-by-play. So it was a great game overall to both teams. Congratulations to Phil Holton for moving on, and Scott. You really gave it your best go, and that was a fun read. Good game. So.
And it's amazing how many times we look at games, we look at the offenses.
Yeah.
But the key moments in the game is usually when the defense actually decides to step up. And
Yeah.
as you say, prevent a drive and make it turn a touchdown into a field goal or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be the difference in so many different games. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it was a really good one. It was an exciting game to watch.
Yeah.
And speaking of exciting games, we had the Generals at Packers, which that was, I think a lot of people were predicting a lot of interesting, endings to this game. So, we saw a strong Generals team visiting a very dominating Packers team. And the first quarter saw some back and forth, and then the Packers landed the first punch. They got a favorable field position from a 38-yard punt that kind of allowed them to start in a good spot. They kind of steadily marched down the field to go up 7-0, and the Generals just didn't have an answer, and the first quarter ended 7-0 in the Packers' favor. Early in the second, a monstrous 29-yard sweep and two huge short passes, and the Generals tie it up at 7. And so they say, "Hey, we're bringing it. It's going to be a game." But the Packers, they didn't want to give up momentum, and they scored off of a 40-yard power pitch from Lamar, and they bring up the game. Packers 14, Generals 7. And so this clash of the Titans then had kind of an immediate other response on the next drive to tie it up again off of a strong drive by Hooker, the very famous running back Hooker of the Generals. And then in what was now kind of a shootout, the Packers responded with a long drive of their own to go up 21-14. And it was, I think the fans' their necks were probably hurting as they just watched the scoring go back and forth, 21-14 in the halftime, and the fans, kind of rejoiced as they got to rest their necks. The Generals came out of halftime to score a field goal after a long drive, and they brought the score to 17-21. And after stopping the Packers on their next drive, they finally took the lead off of another Hooker touchdown. And the Packers then responded with a longer drive that brought them into the fourth quarter, and then only a few plays into that, they scored to regain the lead 28-24. So this flip-flop was just absolutely fun to watch. And in the 55th minute, the Packers scored again to extend their lead 35-24, kind of putting a punctuation mark on it, saying we can go up more than one score. And they held on to that lead as the clock expired, and the Packers survived until the divisional round. Really well played to both coaches, and that was another fun one to watch. I don't think any of the wild card round games disappointed at all. I think they were great. So it was fun.
Yeah, we had four great games, didn't we, in total? It was really good.
That's what you hope for the playoffs, right? Yeah. Like you really hope there's a lot of fun. So we have our divisional round kicking off. What do we have? What's our preview for the LFC? What are we going to look at here?
Okay, well, first game, let's have a look at the Weasels against the Statesmen. Now, the first thing I have to say here is when I looked at the spread prediction, I'll be honest, I was a little shocked because the spread prediction has the Weasels ahead by 2 points, which I have to be honest, I say I disagree with. Running back Gunn, who is an awesome force to be reckoned with, is banged up at the moment. And also you've got the fact that the Statesmen are the third best rushing defense in the whole of Big Sky. So really, in my mind, whether the Weasels can win depends to a certain extent on their passing game, which is a bit weird because their passing game really isn't that great. But they have a very, very solid defense. But you've got to be able to score some points. So really, you've got to look at the Weasels and sort of say, well, where can they score the points? We know they have a fantastic defense, but as I say, they need to score. Both teams like to run the ball. There's no question about that. So whoever wins the aerial battle, and I include Lee's Statesman in this as well, I think will win the game because you've got to mix it up. You cannot just go all rush or rush, because it's very easy to predict, and both teams have got fantastic rushing defenses. To be quite honest, I think home advantage could play a major part in this game. So I'm going to predict that that the Statesmen beat the spread. And I'm also going to predict a Statesman win. But I don't think it'll be a fantastically big margin, to be quite honest. I think this could be a battle again of two defenses. So that's the first game. The second game is between your Fire and Collins Giant Hornets. Now, I have to say here, to be quite honest, that Collins Hornets are really becoming the rivets of the LFC. They have an unbelievable team there. The spread is predicted, and just close your ears here, Patrick. Yeah, they're predicted a 22-point victory. And I hate to say this, mate, but I really can't see any reason why that prediction will be wrong. The Hornets have got a good defense. They've got an unbelievable offense, and it will take some amount of game planning, I think, to stop them. And that doesn't just apply to your good self. I think it applies to whoever they play in the next round as well, because they're looking as if they're going to be the dominant force in the LFC. So again, I'm going to predict that the Hornets win. Whether they win by 22 or not is a different ball game, but I do think the Hornets will scrape it. So that's what we've got coming up in the LFC. So is it looking like a close matchup in the PFC?
Yeah, well, maybe for one of the games. The first game we have the Rapiers at the Rivets. This has to be a frustrating draw for Phil to pull the Rivets again for a second, season. Maybe this season, I just don't remember, but certainly the last one and then this one to go up against the Rivets, that's got to be frustrating. While Phil's offense is usually a huge concern for most teams, the Rivets seem to be able to stop most of the people they go against, like pretty heavily. And so, Phil has to be worried about this. Conrad, I'm sure, is happy to have home field advantage, though, because the Rapiers are nothing to laugh at, right? That offense is pretty stellar. So, the odds makers have the spread at 14, but I have to wonder if it'll really be that close based off of recent history. I mean, there have been some teams to play Conrad close. Let's be fair. But he's been pretty dang dominant, continuously. So, I think the problem will be that the Rapiers are going to have to kind of stop a powerful combined attack of rushing and passing from the Rivets, and their defense hasn't been particularly strong this season. I think they're both ranked, in the 20th or so, or something like that. And so while I'm sure people would love to see an upset, it just doesn't feel like the chances are very high, similar to my game against the Fire's game against the Swarming Giant Hornets. But any given Friday, I guess, right? So, I think they have the pieces. It's just whether or not the things go their way. And I think you just count Conrad is a game planning genius. So we'll just, hopefully the Rapiers can overcome that. But I don't think they'll beat that spread of 14, but who knows? The other game, though, we have the Packers at the Eagles, and this is a very interesting game because you have two legends going toe to toe, Tom Watts Packers and Andy Bates Eagles, kind of to decide who makes it to the conference championships. You have the number 1 ranked offense of the Packers against the 10th ranked defense of the Eagles. This shows a bit of a challenge because it's not reciprocal the other way, right? Where you kind of have this even matchup of a powerhouse offense against a powerhouse defense. The Eagles have a respectable offense, but they're going against the rank 32 defense of the Packers. And that is a little misleading because the Packers have had to deal with some of the best offenses of the league this year. And they're still in the playoffs after all. The odd makers have the spread at 10 in the Eagles' favors, but I have to imagine it's closer than that. Like I put this, I would honestly say this is a closer game than the odd makers chances spread of 2 for the the Statesman Weasels game. I think this is actually a closer game than that on paper. So we'll see, obviously, but I think it'll be a really good game. I'm excited to read the play-by-play on this one and kind of see what happens there. So
you think the home field will make any difference?
I mean, it has to, right? But Tom knows what he's doing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, as always, it can give you a little bit of an edge, but 10 points. I mean, that's a pretty big
Yeah.
spread. I don't see what they see, but I mean, I'm not, I've never won a bowl, so who knows? My opinion isn't worth a whole ton. But I don't even know that's worth a bag of feathers. So, we'll see. It'll be, I mean, regardless, I think we're in for a really good game. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. No.
yeah.
I
Anyway,
think this one could be the closest of the lot. I'll
yeah, I
agree.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So those are the games. We're in the playoffs, not a whole lot of them. But we do have some reminders. What do you got for us, Kev?
Well, basically, pretty similar to last week. It was nice to see the number of people that have signed up again. For last year, I think there's only a couple that are undecided or whatever, which is nice because it's always nice to keep the same bunch of guys
Mhm.
in the league because we all get to know each other a bit better. We have a bit of banter, etc., etc. So that's really good. I have to have a confession here. I said last week that we should all be writing to Ben and basically giving him our MVP. Well, I am one of those guilty parties that hasn't done that as yet. So I will need to do that this week because basically Ben's been kind enough to put it all together. We need to give our MVP votes there.
Mhm.
If you haven't voted for the coach, for the starting quarterback, running back, etc., for the Pro Bowl, then now is the time to do it. Trades, they're starting to go up on the board. It's probably about the right time to start looking at what you're planning to do. We know the draft rather isn't for another probably 2 months, 2.5 months, whatever, into September. But you've got to plan ahead. I'm sure Conrad is waiting quietly in the wings there to pounce as he looks at where everyone's strengths and weaknesses are. And I'm sure Colin, who ventured into the draft, the trading situation last year, will probably be doing exactly the same. So get your drafts in. Have you sorted out your coaching yet? Who are you pinching or trying to pinch? It's because now again is the time to do it. Don't go crying into your milk after the prediction, after the coaching stealing is all over. It's too late then. So basically, just get yourself all organized. Obviously, for those of you still in the playoffs, let's make sure, for God's sake, at this stage in the season, we want 4 green ticks. It'd be somewhat remiss, to say the least, not to have that. And for those here, and for those of you that are still playing college, there's still a season to go. So there's still seasonal matches to go. So keep doing that. And apart from that, just enjoy the game and enjoy watching the divisional playoffs. So that's really the main reminders for this week.
Yeah, thanks, Kev. It's an exciting time of year. I think to let all the viewers know, we're hitting the summer, so there's gonna be some, we're not gonna be here every week. I think we're gonna next week. We may not actually have an episode. We're gonna try. May just be me. Might be the two. We're gonna try and figure things out. But it's summer and family's the most important thing. So we'll try to keep everybody posted. If you have questions, just ask us, send us an email. We'll confirm. But we try to make the show as much as we can, but we do this for fun and sometimes we got to go do other things. So I'm going to be spending time with my kids. I know that. So I'll be having a really good time with them. And so anyway, we'll see everybody when we see them through the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll be able to get some episodes together and talk about some of these fun results. So I appreciate you, Kev. Thank you for everything. Thanks for your analysis. And hope
No
everybody
problem.
out there has a wonderful week.
Yeah. Stay safe. Be good.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.